Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. This is Beth Wee in the Koinonia Kitchen, and I want to talk about step 12. Okay, so maybe you're not carrying a message to an alcoholic. Maybe it's somebody else who has been overeating, or somebody who gambles too much, or somebody who just is a codependent and doesn't know how to let their own life shine. Whatever you're using, whatever compulsive behavior or addiction you're using the 12 steps for, this is the big one. If you've been taking these steps, you have come to a place where you have been awakened spiritually because of these 12 steps. It's pretty exciting, actually. And you're ready to carry the message. You walked in the mess, and now you're the message. You walked in with a test, and now you've got a testimony. And these are the principles that you're going to be teaching other people and living out in your life. You know, the joy of living is what they say you get when you get to this place in your 12-step work. And action has become a way of life for you. You don't sit on the sidelines anymore. You take action. And when you see someone in need, you tend to give some help, especially if it's somebody who's in a bad place where you once were and they're asking for help. But first things first, what do you think they mean when they say spiritual awakening? Was it a sudden thing, or is it what they call the educational variety? It came to you little by little? It doesn't matter. People have spiritual awakenings in different ways. It's just like a relationship. Your relationship with your friend might be different than someone else's relationship with that same friend. And yet you both have wonderful relationships. Maybe you go to the movies with your friend and the other person plays pickleball with the friend, and you both enjoy what you do. But the two don't mix. So think about it. Spiritual awakening. The most important meaning of an awakening is that you're now able to take the next right action. That's what the doing is. You're now able to do what you couldn't do before. You're willing and ready to take the next right action. You're now able to feel. And what does that mean? It means to have your emotions come up without being afraid of them. With a spiritual awakening, your emotions aren't running the show anymore. You have a place to go with them. You have a way to think through them. And the last one is you're now able to believe. You have come back to a place where trust, confidence, reliance, security, you have your own convictions and you're able to live those convictions out. It's quite an amazing thing. When a spiritual awakening happens, the old man is gone. He's awake. He's conscious. He's living. He's vibrant. He's thriving. That's what step 12 brings. It's a gift that amounts to a new state of consciousness and being. And it's what they call it is the magnificent reality of the 12 steps. What is it? Find out what it is for you and write it down. Get some tangible evidence that you have been changed. The way you think is different. The way you live is different. There's a whole host of 12-step opportunities. And is that what 12-step work is? Because having had this spiritual awakening, because you've taken these steps, it says that you're going to try to carry the message to other people and to practice the principles in all your affairs. There's going to be times, even though you've gotten here to step 12, that you're going to be temporarily off the beam, I guess. It's like a setback. But it's really a path to better things. Trust the process. Trust it. Trust that this has changed the way you are. Trust it. We need to remember that all of the 12 steps are necessary to help us live a good, useful, whole life. Not just 1 in 12. So when you admitted you were powerless and maybe you started going to meetings, If that's all you're doing, that's what they call the 12-step two-step. It has a great little beat, but you cannot dance to it. You're not safe. You're dancing your way into disaster if you're just using the two steps, the first step and the 12th step. There's a whole host of things in the middle. If you haven't listened to the other podcasts on the overviews of the other 12 steps, please take the time to do it, because tough stuff is going to continue, and there's going to be times when we're off the beam. So what's the answer? Believe it or not, I'm going to say more spiritual development. Our instincts that we learned about in step 4 are still going to call us out on time to time. So we're going to look for more spiritual progress. Spiritual progress to overcome the instinctive needs that are calling to us. You know, the instinctive drives that get out of whack are usually sex, security, emotional or financial security, and society, how we're getting along with other people, or what other people think about us, or if we're in power over people, or if we're dependent on other people. All of these, you might have a problem that's not solving itself if you've fallen back into this instinct on rampage. So the answer could be in black and white if you just took the time to write out a little 10th step quick spot check inventory and see what's happening, because that will put you back into step 12, where you're living it one day at a time, where you're sharing it. You know, you're joined the realm of what Bill Wilson called recovered people. He reminds us that we're supposed to be maintaining a joy in living if we have recovered. So he suggests that you won't get that without action as a way of life. So if you're feeling bad and you're at step 12, you're going to need to take some action. You know, a lot of people come to the program to stop drinking or using drugs or overeating. But the whole program is really not about drinking. It's about thinking. And to stay on the beam, we have to continue to take action as a way of life. You know, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from our dependency as intensive work with other people. Bill Wilson said that. He's the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's a promise. It's a promise that you can count on. Many people shortchange themselves, thinking that the promises they listed in step 9 were the only ones. No, there's promises with every one of the 12 steps. So read about how you can do this. I'm going to give you a little overview, and I'm taking these thoughts from the chapter in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, and the chapter is called Working with Others. And it just tells you exactly what to do if you want to share with someone else the benefits that you've gotten through working these 12 steps. It starts with this: if the person doesn't want what you have, don't waste any time. You're not going to persuade him. This is a program for people that want it, not for people we know need it. That's a tough one, isn't it? There's so many people, when we find this solution, we want to share it with everybody we know who needs it. Sadly, it will only work for people who want it. If you want to talk to the person closest to him to get an idea, you can, but don't deal with anybody while they're using or in their compulsive behavior. Wait for the end of that bout and ask if he'd like to talk. Never plead with anybody, though. And if the family keeps bothering you, you have to say, I'm waiting for them to reach out to me. It's wonderful that a family member wants you to help their family. But the reality is, until that person wants it, there's nothing you can do. You just have to tell the family they're going to have to wait. Don't put a big book right in front of them, but you can have one with you where they might see it. That's the book that first introduced the 12 steps to the world, and he might want to look at it one day, but When it's your first chance to talk, hopefully you're there while he's still hurting. Whether he's hurting from a drunk or from a binge or from a loss of money on a gambling exertion, whatever it is, hopefully he's hurting. And don't talk about his family. Talk about him. See him alone. And you can talk about your own history, the troubles that you went through. If his mood is light, tell him some jokes or funny stories. If his mood is serious, dwell on the troubles that your compulsive behavior caused you. Tell him how you struggled, and tell him the wonderful thing when you realized you were sick, not bad. That's a big deal, guys. I think when we think that some of these addictions are moral dilemmas, it's very hard to surrender, because it means that we have to admit we're just a bad person. And we're not bad people trying to get good. We're sick people trying to get well. Once he sees you know all about his drug of choice or his compulsive behavior, now begin to describe yourself as what you are. Are you an alcoholic? Are you an addict? Are you a gambler? Begin to describe yourself with a word that tells him that's who I am. Describe the mental twist that happens that leads you to go back into the behavior that causes you so much trouble. Dwell on the hopelessness of the disease, that it's a disease, and how you can't predict what's going to happen because of the disease, because it's physical, it's mental, it's spiritual. Do not call the person by a name that would suggest he's alcoholic, addict, compulsive. Don't call him a name. That person you're working with has to come to that conclusion on their own. If he's been identifying with what you've been talking about, chances are in his mind he's saying, oh my gosh, they're talking about me. But you never say that. Never brand the person. Continue to talk about the addictive behavior or substance as an illness, and focus on your experience. And remind him that before you got well, you felt doomed. You felt there was no way out. Let him ask you how you got well. Don't give that information up unless he asks you. And then if he does, tell him exactly what happened to you. Now you can talk about the spiritual feature freely, because up to this point you have not mentioned it. Remember? We never mentioned God up to now. Be clear that he doesn't have to understand or agree with your conception of the higher power, but he must be willing to believe that there is a power greater than him that can restore his sanity, and that he will try to live by spiritual principles. Use regular language to describe these principles. In our 12-step groups, sometimes we get almost a language of our own. Other people don't always understand it. Be simple in your language. Make it so that he understands that you're not a church group or a cult or anything like that. You're just a person that learned that there's spiritual things that can help you. If he is religious, tell him, I'm not here to teach you about religion. I'm sure you know more about religion than I do. Whatever you need to say, but just say, but I'm telling you that you can utilize what you know to help you with this problem. He might know more than you do about this whole God business, but he couldn't have applied his knowledge, or he still wouldn't be in trouble. And then start to talk about the program of recovery. Tell him it takes action, and attempt to pass on that you need to pass it on. That's how you stay clean, sober, abstinent, whatever it is. Make clear that he never has to see you again if he doesn't want to. And if he balks at some of the work, don't contradict him. Tell him you once felt like that too, but you gave it a shot and it changed your life. Tell him about the fellowship. If he shows interest, hand him that copy of the big book that you have. But don't overstay your welcome. If he wants what you have, you'll do anything to help him. And if he's serious, follow up. If not, don't push. We have no monopoly on recovery or God or any of that. If you permit him to use you, you will only harm him. You can be of help, but you got to be sure you're doing the right thing. Check with some other people in your network. Tell them how it went on the visit. Ask them, should I follow up or not? Get a consensus. Because if he's not interested in your solution, you should drop him until he calls you back. Be friendly and let it go at that. Every man that wants to can get well if they will trust in God and clean house. That is our experience. Trust that process. You're not selling something you don't know. This is what your experience is. The bottles were a symbol of what was wrong. The way we think was the problem. And we have stopped fighting with anybody. We're not going to fight with this 12-step person. We're not going to fight with someone who needs what we have and who needs relationship with a higher power. You know, they have a great way of saying it. They say, carry the message, not the mess. And the program tells us that we all have different talents to bring to the mix. The person you can help might be somebody they would never hear me talk. The person that hears you might have similarities or total differences. I don't know what makes us identify with each other. But once we identify with each other, big stuff can happen. We can change, we can grow, we can realize that there is hope and that we can recover. What's the talent that you bring to the program? Don't sell yourself short. You're doing something right. If you've made it 24 hours without using or behaving compulsively, then I have a friend, Richie, who says you're a howling success. So bring the group the best you can. And as you grow, you will bring them more. You know, there are things that require zero talent. Being on time, making an effort, having a positive attitude, using good body language, being teachable, doing a little extra, having a strong work ethic. These are all things that are important. Whatever's your strength, bring it. Bring it to the group. Bring it to the person you're working with. Bring it to your higher power and say, thanks for this. I realize that I have this, and it probably came from you. Step 12, carry the message. Because after all, after you finish these 12 steps, you think in a completely new way, and your life is better. It's time to take addiction out of the shadows and shine the encouraging light of recovery on everyone affected. Good Seed Podcast is powered by BethWE.com, a nonprofit ministry based in Vero Beach, Florida. We'll start the uncomfortable conversations that turn despair into hope and complacency into action. Connect, communicate, and thrive with us. Check us out online at BethWE.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk again soon.